Today we're looking at a classic standard called Just Friends, and I just shot a video with the analysis of the chord progression and a harmonic map of the chord progression, and we chatted about the melody and a few other things. So I'd suggest you took a look at that video as well in preparation for this one, which is sort of more focusing on the play along aspects of playing through a standard like this. So I think the first thing I'm going to do is just gently go through the chords, and the reason I'm going to do it this way is because I think that's the best pedagogic method for learning a tune like this, is to just get those chords in your inner ear. And then after that, we'll add the melody. So let's just take a look at and listen to the chords, and I may talk over them a little bit as well. So we're in the key of G. Measure form. We're in the second 16 now. Then it turns around, goes back to the top. Okay, good. So that's good. Let's take that back to the beginning. So as I said, we're in the key of G, but we start on the 4 chord on a C major chord. We go to the parallel minor, and it's related to, and then we go to the 1 chord, or the tonal center, sort of tonal center, and then 2, 5, and A flat, and then all of these chords are diatonic. This four measures here, diatonic, mean all according to the scale of G. Secondary dominant, watch out for that C sharp, and then a 2, 5, and then a little turnaround to the C major. Naturally, there's different ways of approaching the chord progression. You can do substitutions and so on later on, but we're just laying a foundation here. Okay, and then the second 16 is pretty much the same, except for a little tag at the end, right? There's something a little bit different that turns us back around to the C major, and defines G major at the same time it turns us back around to C major, sort of playing that little to the 4 chord trick that's very common in jazz standards. So, like, what are we? Are we in the key of C? No, we're in the key of G. Right? Okay. And so maybe I'll just run through the melody a little bit now, so you can hear that against the chord progression. Repeating, right? Back to that. Okay, good. You get the idea. All right. So if you've seen any of my other videos, I like doing this thing where you just start with the roots of the chords to get an idea of where the progression's going, and there's no better way to get an idea of where the progression's going than to play the roots of the chords. And you can play, rather than play them down in a lower octave. You don't want to, sort of do a hokey bass line. But instead, what we'll do is just put these root notes in upper position, right? Sort of around the middle of the fretboard to familiarize ourselves with. B flat. Yeah, and so on, right? Just the roots of the chords. I missed a couple of them, but that's okay. And then once you've got the roots of the chords happening, then I would suggest playing maybe there's a few places to start. One lesson I haven't done yet, and I think I'll do that now, is a root with an upper neighbor. Okay, a root and an upper neighbor. Now, what is an upper neighbor? An upper neighbor is a note that's in the scale, so that's above the root. Okay, so or above a chord tone, but in this case we're looking at roots. So upper neighbor would be, here's a C, and the upper neighbor in the key of C major would be D. Right? C to D and falling back to C. Really easy. And the same thing for the C minor. And then when we go to the F, same deal. And there you can phrase these any way you like. G, right, and then A, neighbor, G. Well, it really amazes me how just the root and upper neighbors start to define, you can start to hear that chord progression, right? So I'm just going to try a little bit against that truck just to give you an idea. Upper neighbor, really important. I don't think you're going to hear that much. It's weird. Guitar players tend to do this visual thing where they talk about patterns and they talk about this and that, using words like appoggiaturas and upper neighbors, you don't hear that. But those are compositional terms. They're terms that are in the musical language, and this is apparently a musical instrument. Okay, I'll show you upper neighbor. So on, right? You heard the upper neighbors. Great place to start. Great way to approach a chart like this. Now you're should be hearing the roots of the changes, and then we're adding a color tone, right? And that color tone doesn't. When I say color tone, it doesn't affect the function of the chord. If we went as far as the third, that becomes a little bit different. I'll show you what I mean. Like in the case of C major, if we go up to the third, that tells me that the chord is a major sound, right? Root, major third, and then root and minor third, right? And I'll just do a little bit of this, just roots and thirds, and if I can just nail this in the right position. Ready, set. Get the idea. You're hearing the thirds there. Okay. And you can combine the thirds with upper neighboring tone. When you play an upper neighboring tone, what you're talking about is the way that note functions. So it functions as an upper neighbor when it falls back down to the root. It neighbors the root. It wants to fall back down to the root. But a passing tone does not fall back down to the root. So if we use that same note, that upper neighbor, but it moves to the third, now it's no longer an upper neighbor. It's not behaving like an upper neighbor. It now is a passing tone. Right? Passing tone. So let's just listen to that with the play-along track, a passing tone to the third. Okay, so I did a couple of fills there, but you can hear that passing tone moving to the three. On the C, it goes like this, and then to C minor, to the minor three, right? To the F. Great exercise. Now I'm just going to add one more to this, and that is the fifth. Now the fifth, if we spell the chord of C major 7, it would be C, E, G, and B. So the fifth is the G. The fifth can be found. Here's the C. It can be found above, or it can be found below. And we're going to deal with the one below. So just and by the way, the same fifth is going to be found in a minor chord or a major chord. The same fifth is going to be found in a minor chord, a major chord, or a 7 chord, right? So so on the fretboard, a fifth below, that doesn't matter the chord unless it's like a flat 5 or something like that. We only have one alteration here in this chart. It's going to invariably look and sound like that. A C minor, F, or F. Right, that's the idea. So because the fifth is found in each of the chords, like major, minor, and 7, it won't define the chord. Right? You're not going to be, a C minor chord is not going to sound any different than a C major chord. And that is problematic. But when you use it with, obviously the 3rd and the 7th and so on, it's going to work beautifully, right? So let's have a listen to that with the track, just to the 5th. get the idea, right? By itself, it's pretty uninteresting. But if you start to combine it with what we were talking about with the root, upper neighbors, and moving up to the 3, and then to the 5th below, you can almost start to hear lines, right? There was one using those elements, right? So if we listen to that with the track, okay, so that gives you an idea what happens when we put these elements together, and this makes for a great way to practice tunes like this, and do it in a systematic and progressive manner, right? As opposed to just playing scales. I mean, you can do that if we took this and said, well, here I'm just going to say I'm in the key of C major, and here I'm going to say I'm in the key of B flat major, and here I'm in the key of G major, and here I'm in the key of A flat major. I'm just going to do, you could do that and just run scales like that, but the trouble is you're not going to necessarily, you won't be defining the chord, the chords or the chord progression. So on, right? It tends to begin to sound a little on the scale side of things. So I would suggest that you begin by trying to define the chords. There's different ways of defining the chords. If, on the other hand, you take a look at this and just try to play arpeggios, arpeggios tend to be a little on the long side and a little more challenging. At least you're grabbing the changes when you're doing that. But that tends to sound a little on the pedantic side too, but it's not terrible, but it's just another approach. So each one of these is a different approach. There are other approaches as well. If you can think of anything that's a cool approach that's working for you, let me know in the comments, and like and subscribe if this was a help to you. Remember that this comes in a pair of videos. The first one we sort of set it up and take a look at the tune itself, and in this section here I'm starting to talk about how to play over changes. Don't forget the chords. Don't forget to sort of sort out the chords up and down the fretboard before, so it starts to feel comfortable, and that can lead to a sort of a chord a chord solo style, right? That's a whole other thing. Maybe we'll do that later. Chord solos and chord melodies are two different types of things. Okay, thanks for stopping by. I hope this is going to be a help to you. Let me know if it was. I really appreciate your comments because I'm just walking blind if I don't get comments. Thanks for stopping by. I appreciate your time. Hope to see you again real soon.